Watch me turn a CSV file into a full project in Hive instantly. So as you can see on the right hand side, I've got the CSV file here. So it's got different actions, it's got cache values, it also has start date and end date fields which are empty, as well as property fields. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Hive, and then all I need to do is I need to name this project. So I'm going to name it Peter's Project. Great. And then all I need to do is drop the CSV file. So this is the actual CSV file. So I'm going to drop it over there, select it, and then now it's just uploading the file. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually submit. So you can see that it's been uploaded. All I need to do now is I just need to submit over there. And then as you can see, your response has been recorded. And now this is when the magic actually happens, because when I check on Hive, you'll see that a new project is going to be created based on the CSV, and it's also going to have the different actions. So let's check it out. So here, all I need to do is click on View in Hive. And boom, as you can see, it says here Peter's Project, which is under Form Submissions. All I need to do now is I select this and close this action, and as you can see, here is the magic. It has action 1, action 2, action 3, action 4, action 5. It has all the actions in place. You can also see that this is also related to this CSV over here. In order to prove this, all I need to do is I need to go to the project navigator, and then under form submissions, I'm just going to select on the drop down, and as you can see, a project has been created called Peter's Project. I'm going to select that over there, and then I'm just going to make this also bigger so you guys can have a look. And these are all the actions that you can see which are related to the CSV. Awesome stuff. Let's check action 8. If I check action 8 over here, you can see that the reference is the same here. So action 8 reference is the same, and you can see also the cache value is 3738, and you can see action 8 is 3738. Awesome stuff. What an amazing automation, and I built this using Hive Automate. I'm going to show you step by step of how you can build it as well. Hi, my name is Peter from Connex Digital. We are an automations and integrations company that specializes in Hive Automate integrations. If you're interested in working with us, please be sure to book a free discovery call with us. If you want more information, please check the links down below in the description of this video. Without further ado, let me show you how you can build this Hive Automate integration. Alright, so let's get into it. The digital automation platform that we'll be using to build this automation is Hive Automate. And this is the entire workflow that we'll be actually going through today. So let's get into it. The first action is a trigger action, and it is called New Updated Action in Hive. You can see here that the object is action, the trigger events is new action, as well as the project is form submission. So essentially, what is the trigger? The trigger is that when there is a form submission, then this is when the workflow is going to be activated. That's essentially the trigger. And so it's waiting to see what action is actually performed, and the action needs to be also taken place in terms of the form submission. So essentially, that is when the workflow is going to begin. Once that's done, then we go to the next step. Now the next step is called custom action in Hive. So you can see that it says here under help, build your own Hive action with an HTTP request. And so what is the reason why we're actually building a custom action? We're building a custom action because we actually have an attachment which is part of the action. We have an attachment which is part of the form submission. So you can see here under action name, it says custom action. We say that the method is get, and then after that, we're also creating a path. So you can see that we are actually mapping the ID coming from step 1 into this path over here so that we can make the correct API call. And once we make the correct API call, then that is when we are able to get the attachment that is part of that form submission. And in this case, it is the CSV. Once we do that, you can see that the response type is JSON response, and then down below here, it says response body. So these are all the required fields that we're also going to get. Awesome stuff. Once we're done with this action, then we go to the next action. So the next action is called get file from URL. So you can see that we want the URL of that specific file. And where are we getting that? Well, we're getting it from step number 2. So we're mapping the URL from step number 2, which was custom action in Hive, and then we're mapping it into the URL field over here. So that essentially is going to help us get the contents of the attachment. Awesome stuff. So once we're done with this action over here, then we're just going to click close over here, and then we go to the next action, which is very important. So this next action is Parse CSV. So the reason why we needed to get the URL in the first place is so that we can actually get the file contents of that specific attachment, of that specific CSV. And once we do that, then we can actually map the file contents into this section over here, which is called CSV contents. If we scroll down below over here, you can also see that we have a header schema. You can see that we have the action name, the cache value, the start date, the end date, as well as the reference. Now, if you can remember correctly, the CSV actually had all of these columns in place, as well as the fields that were part of these columns. So you can see that these are all required fields, and it's important to make sure that they form part of the header schema. Great stuff. So once we're done with this step and we're done parsing the CSV so that we can get the different elements of the file, then we go to the next step. The next step is called get details of a specific action in Hive. So you can see here, it says retrieve the details of a specific action via its Hive ID. Select the object type to retrieve the details of, then provide its action ID. So what are we doing here? You can see that under object we have action, and then here it says action ID. So we're mapping the ID that we're getting from step 1, which was getting the new updated action in Hive, and then we're mapping it over here within step 1. So that's essentially what we're doing in this action over here. We are mapping the action ID that we're getting from step 1 into this field over here so that we can get the details of a specific action in Hive. Great stuff. Once we're done with that, then it's time for us to then create a project in Hive. And so remember, we're trying to create a new project within Hive that is also going to have the different actions that are in place. So here it is create a project in Hive, and you can see it says create project in Hive. Select the object type to create, then provide data for creating the project. So under object we have project, and then for name we say the title, which is coming from step number 5. Awesome stuff. And then this we can leave as it is. And so this step will ensure that we create a project within Hive successfully. Awesome. Once we're done with that, then we go to step number 7. So if I select on step number 7, you can see that we have an input list. And so we're getting the lines from the CSV from step number 4, and we're mapping it into this specific field. You can see that the repeat mode is 1 item at a time. And so here below it says when set to batch of items, the input list is repeated in batches of a specified size. Awesome. And then the clear step output is no. So once we're done with that step, then we go to create action in Hive. So you can see here is that we have the object, which is action, and then we have the title. So that's the action name coming from step number 7. And then we have the project ID. So the project ID is coming from step number 6, and we need to put it here as a custom value. And then if we scroll down over here, we also need to map what we're also getting from the CSV. So you can see that the due date we've mapped over here, and the start date we've also mapped over here. So these are actually the lines that we processed within the CSV, and we're just mapping them into these specific fields. Once we're done with this action over here, then last but not least, we then go to the next step, which is the last one, which is update action in Hive. Under object we have action, and then we have the action ID, which is coming from step number 8, which we have already mapped over here. Now if I scroll down below here, this is very, very interesting because you can see that it's custom fields that we have created within Hive. And now you can see that there are 2 items here. The first item is reference, and the second item is cache value. Now remember, with each action comes custom fields. This is going to help us to identify what kind of action it is and what kind of information it has. And that's why these custom fields have been created. You can see that the first one is a reference, and then we've mapped the line of the CSV into here coming from step 7. And then you can see that the second custom field is cache value, and then you can see that we have the cache value that we're mapping from the CSV line into over here, which is coming from step number 7 as well. Great stuff. Once we're done with that, we have successfully completed the entire workflow. This is how you can build a powerful Hive Automate integration. If this sparked interest for you and you'd like us to help you build this workflow, then we'll be more than happy to do that. Just make sure that you book a free discovery call with us. If you want more information, please check the links down below in the description of this video. If you want to check us out and see what we're up to, you can also visit our website, which is connex.digital. Please be sure to give us a thumbs up and also comment down below what actually stood out for you when it came to this video. Don't forget to check out all the videos that are part of the Connex YouTube channel and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.